there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer, I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support, such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Today's episode is titled, I Don't Know My Kid Anymore, Estrangement and Evolution Regarding Gender, Sexuality, and Pronouns. A couple of announcements. First one, big, huge thank yous to everyone who has listened to the show, shared the podcast with others, etc. We reached a pretty large milestone and goal that I had for the podcast within at the conclusion of the first year. Actually achieved that 6 weeks prior to the 1 year anniversary, and that was 20,000 plays. And that's pretty significant for a brand new podcast. And I just want to say thank you. I am super grateful and so utterly humbled that you believe in the work that I'm doing, and thank you. Here in the States, today is National Psychotherapy Day. I also want to recognize and thank the therapists who are working hard every single day to help heal, repair, and transform family relationships. Oftentimes that begins with the individual and healing their own relationship with self, and then that rolls over into the family, as I talk about often in my work here in the world of estrangement. So thank you to the psychotherapists who do that. And I also would like to thank the therapists that I work in conjunction with our shared clients in helping to bring reconciliation to the table and to transform the relationships between parents and adult children. Thank you. And I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge today as National Daughters Day here in the States. And while I recognize there are some parents that doesn't bring happy thoughts to mind because you're not in contact with your daughter, I recognize that. My daughters, my only two children, are both daughters, and those who have heard my story know that they both estranged from me. We've now reconciled, and I believe, and I think that they would agree, that we have much healthier relationships with one another than we ever had before. And I owe that to the estrangement. It forced me to look at myself. It forced me to take inventory on my own shit and my own traumas, and it absolutely transformed how I am in relationship with my daughters today. I recognize also some parents are not there yet. You may not ever be there, and that's okay. That's your journey and your path. This is my journey and my path. And so to my daughters, I love you, and I am super grateful for your forgiveness. On to our quotes. The first one, at each stage, my task is to lift the veil of common knowledge and received wisdom, considering what science and watchful observation tells us, with the aim of unfastening the myths that keep the status quo locked in place. That is by Dr. Gabor Mate. The second is, no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. And that is by Nelson Mandela. So today's topic can be considered controversial. I don't consider it as such. However, I know that the majority of my listeners who are over the age of 45, 50, 75% of the listeners of this podcast are over the age of 50. I recognize that today's topic might be considered controversial. And if this doesn't apply to you, that you don't want to hear about it, please don't listen. It's okay. I'm not here to beg, plead, and borrow with people on this. It is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And if you are in a space where you're able to have some curiosity around this from a place of understanding, trying to understand, learn, grow, and evolve, then I welcome you to stay. Evolution is a part of this, right? We evolve as people, as a culture, as the world. We evolve. We are not where we were 200 years ago. We're not where we were 100 years ago, or 50 years ago, or even 20 years ago. We evolve, and thank goodness we do. We are no longer traveling around in horse and buggies. We are no longer watching black and white TV. We are no longer having to wait at home by the phone to get that all-important phone call, because we now carry these little mini computers in our pockets. The world evolves. And if you're not willing to get on board with that, then you're going to be left behind, because it's not going to stop. And that is a topic for today. Humanity is evolving. I believe that this is not anything new. It is simply, it's out in the open now. I think that sexualities have differed from the beginning of time. But because of a variety of different things, and I'm not going to get into all of those because those are even more controversial, it's been a taboo topic to talk about. Anything regarding sex has always been a taboo topic to talk about. And so I want to bring it out into the open. I am an advocate of not hiding, stuffing, pretending, etc. I am an advocate of bringing things out into the open so we can have a conversation around them. We can learn and grow and evolve as human beings and within our relationships with one another. Living my life this way has made my life immensely better. The stress, the amount of energy it takes to hide something, to pretend something isn't what it is just enormous. And it's not something I want to spend my energy on. I want to spend my energy on things that are easy, things that are loving, things that are kind, things that are healing. That is what I want to spend my energy on. So let's talk about sexuality, right? I understand that there is terminology, there are ways of being in the world that perhaps the older generation does not understand, and that's okay. There is no shame in not knowing what we don't know. I'm asking you to enter into this with a sense of curiosity and an open heart. I'm not here to judge. If you don't know about these things, you don't know about them. There's nothing, nobody can hold that against you. But if you have a kid who's come to you, an adult kid, and I do want to say this too, today's topic is we're talking about people 18 and older, adults, when it comes to sexuality. I'm not going to get into what all this means for anyone under the age of 18. If you have an adult child who has come to you and has said, this has been a daughter of yours for 25 years, comes to you and says they want to be called Tommy and their pronouns are now he, him, and you're like, what the hell? I gave birth to a daughter. I adopted a daughter. What are you talking about? I understand that confusion. I understand not knowing and understanding. What I am asking you is that you not express that and show that to your child. I'm not telling you to shove it and pretend it's not there. I'm not doing that either. I am asking you to learn about those things, talk about those things with someone other than your child. It's not up to your child to educate you. It's just not. It's up to you to educate yourself. And in today's time, anybody that, if you have access to listen to this podcast, you have access to Google. Google everything that you don't know. If your child comes to you and says they want to go by a different pronoun, get online and Google different pronouns. My child wants to go by a different pronoun. Google those things, and you'll find all sorts of resources and support and things like that through Google. To your child, having your response be one that is reactive and unaccepting is trauma. It is to be rejected by a parent is trauma. Just as you, as an estranged estranged parent, I know all the estranged parents talk about the trauma that's instilled in them when they are rejected by their child. When you reject your adult child because of their sexuality, that too is trauma. Okay? So I'm asking you to not do that. I am asking you to consider this one question that I ask everyone when this topic is brought up. Why would someone choose to live a life that they know they will be discriminated against, they will be potentially harmed physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually? Why would someone choose to do that? I don't know of anyone that would. And I can say that because I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community myself. My first estrangement with my mother and my father was after I came out to them. I was in my late 20s. I had already been married and divorced. I had 2 children. And the response I got from them was anger, borderline rage, and how could you do this to your children? That rejection traumatized me. And it colored a lot of my world from that point forward. When children are not accepted for who they are, as they are, in the here and now, it's traumatizing to them. And when I say children, I don't mean anyone it does apply to anyone under 18, but in today's conversation, I am talking about a grown adult. I don't care if that child is 18, 28, 38, 48, 58, however old they are, they're still your child. You are still their parent. And that is traumatizing to them. We don't, as a society, the subject of sex for the older generation is typically a taboo topic, one that is not discussed out in the open. And that's why I'm telling you to get on Google from the privacy of your own home and start Googling things so that you can educate yourself. I'm not telling you to go down to, the local coffee shop and start swapping stories with everyone. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not telling you to go talk about it with your, church friends and women's circles and all. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can learn and begin to learn about these things in ways that feel safe to you, so that you can be a safe harbor for your child. That being said, let's talk about some of the reasons why a parent might reject their child if they come out to them as members of this LGBTQ plus community. Most of what I find is fear. Sometimes it's a religious thing, a religious belief, and parents feel that it goes against their religion. And I'm not here to argue that. I don't believe it's healthy to reject your child for any reason. However, that's one reason that parents do. Another reason is fear. And it can be fear of the unknown. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what this means for me, my family. What does this mean for my child? Just the simple fear of the unknown. It can be fear of harm and non-acceptance for your child, for your adult child. And I'm here to tell you that even in 2022, that is a real thing. People in my community are harmed on a daily basis because of who they love, because of who they're having sex with. And quite frankly, we don't go into the business of heterosexuals and begin asking them about their bedroom antics. So why do we feel compelled to be in the bedroom of anyone else between two consenting adults? I don't understand that. It could also be perhaps a parent experimented as a young adult and was shamed for that experimentation, or maybe they thought that they were a member of the LGBTQ plus community and were rejected. And so they just thought, it's easier just to pretend I don't love this person, or I don't feel like I can be in this community. And so it brings up all this personal stuff for them when their kid comes out, right? So is it your own stuff that you're projecting onto your child, your fear of what happened to you in the past, your own trauma from that? It could also be, fear of what will other people think. I remember having a conversation with my mom about attending or urging her to attend a PFLAG meeting. And that's P as in Paul, flag, F-L-A-G. And it stood for, back before 2014, parents, family, friends of lesbians and gays. And they just simply go by PFLAG today. But anyway, it's an organization for parents and family and friends of people in this community to help educate them, to help advocate for them and things like that. And my mom's response was, I could never go to one of those meetings. What happens if someone saw me there? And I said to her, Mom, if someone sees you there, then they are there for the same reason you're there. But she was so fearful of what other people would think about her. And while that was a valid fear of hers, it was a fear of hers that she should have worked through on her own, and not, didn't take that out on me by rejecting me and things like that. So that's why, again, it's okay to not know what you don't know. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to be scared. But what's not okay is rejecting your child based off of who they are. They can't change that. Or I should say, they tried to change that to conform and fit in with what society deems as appropriate and acceptable. And they just have come to the place and point in time in their life where they're like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be someone who I'm not. And so they're trying to be themselves. And all they want is to be accepted for who they are in the present moment. So my plea to parents is try to understand how your child must be feeling. To have been rejected by you, in essence, rejected by society, because there are still pockets and places that don't accept members of my community. And if you have gotten this far into this episode and you're like, I'm never listening to her again because she's a member of this community, I would ask you, prior to hearing this episode, you probably didn't think that of me. You probably thought the content that I was giving and delivering was good and valuable information. And now, simply by knowing that I'm a member of this community, you deem I'm not okay. I just want you to sit with that for just a moment. It's a hard place to be in. I'm lucky in that I live now in a progressive area that is accepting of people like me. I can be fairly safe and not be scared of going out and being who I am today. But there are people who can't. There are people who are not safe. And if that's your child and you have a worry about that, it's valid. But I'm begging you to educate yourself on this. And if you don't know where to turn, if you don't know what to do, where to go, what to look up, email me, contact me. I'm happy to help. And I promise you, I'm not judging you. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not shaming you. I won't shame you. I will help you the best way I know how. And if you have a question that I don't have an answer to, we'll find it out together. Your child needs you to accept them as they are. If you are an estranged adult child and your parent has rejected you based off of your sexuality, I understand that rejection. I understand it intimately, and I understand the trauma that it induces. If you need support in trying to reconnect with your parent and struggle because of this one particular area, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. But above everything else, I want you to know you are worthy of love and belonging simply because you exist. Don't let anyone take that from you. There is nothing wrong with loving another human being. This world needs more love. You keep loving. You keep loving. This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent and that you were able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement or reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart, or sharing this podcast or leaving a positive review. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out via email to theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Until next time.